Do you live with dizziness, vertigo, or balance issues, and maybe you'd like to find a deeper answer as to what's actually going on? My name is Dr. Sam McDonald from Omega Functional Health. I practice here in Wheat Ridge, Colorado, and I want to give you a deeper look into what's actually happening with balance, dizziness, and vertigo type issues, and really try to provide you some answers as to what's actually going on. Most people think that dizziness starts in just their inner ears. But dizziness rarely starts in one place. It usually comes from a lack of integration between three different systems: your inner ears, eyes, and your body awareness. And when the brain can't integrate those three systems, it creates confusion. And confusion feels like dizziness. Okay, so let's dive deeper into what the big three actually are. So the big three are your vestibular system, your visual system or your eyes, and your somatosensory system. So your vestibular system is made up of the two different balance system organs inside of your inner ear. One is what's called your semicircular canals. So these are responsible for rotational head movements, and they connect in with the eyes and reflexively will push the eyes in different directions. So your semicircular canals, when you turn your head left, right, back, or forward, those are responsible for telling your brain that you've moved your head. They're also responsible for keeping your eyes stable when you're walking or when you're moving, just like those big fancy stable cameras when they can film things with the whole shot looking very, very still. The other organ inside of your inner ear is called your otolith. Your otolith is responsible for linear motion, like stepping sideways, going forward or backward, riding up or down in an elevator. More importantly, your otolith is responsible for your perception to gravity. Gravity is arguably one of the most important senses that we need to have because it's with us 24/7, unless we leave the earth, but it's here from the time we're born to the time that we die. So we're always under that constant force of gravity. The next one is the visual system. The visual system is your eyes. So our ability to see where we are in space, be able to take in depth, being able to see brightness and color, all those different pieces come into play for our eyes to be able to tell our brain where we are in relation to something else. And again, our eyes will be reflexively pushed or without our control, pushed in certain directions when a vestibular system may be over or underactive. Lastly, our somatosensory system, or our connection to our body. So now we have to know where is our body in relation to other things in our environment. So we have to know I'm standing here and I'm approximately 5 feet away from the door that's in front of me. So all three of these systems have to be able to constantly communicate and share information in perfect harmony. When one or more of these systems is miscalibrated or sending bad information to the brain, that's where we start to get the feelings of dizziness, vertigo, chronic pain, muscle tightness that won't go away, or other symptoms that just seem to persist despite going to multiple therapies and other doctors. So typically symptoms will persist because if we start to have a vestibular or balance issue, what tends to happen is we start to limit our activity. We become more sedentary, we're less active, we're not moving as much. And when we stop moving as much, now our vestibular system gets weaker, our whole postural and our whole somatosensory system becomes less connected to our brain, and now our visual system becomes the most dominant. But as the cycle perpetuates, now we just continue to be less active, and less active, and our vestibular system gets weaker and weaker and weaker, and our whole life starts to shrink in because now we're no longer engaging in the activities that we used to love and used to enjoy. So the beautiful thing about using technology to actually quantify and give data to these types of problems is that now, instead of just giving a smattering of different exercises and hoping for the best that you'll get better, now we can actually give you a particular roadmap to know where you actually are in this progression of getting back to being healthy. So we can give you a calm stabilization initial process to get symptoms under control. Then we can start to train and develop capacity in order for you to be able to handle more challenges throughout your daily life, ultimately building into performance where you're now back to potentially the original place where you were, or even better, so that you're living life to your absolute fullest. So it's really important to understand that rest alone will not fix a miscalibration in the vestibular system. It's oftentimes it will be there until it's corrected, which is why it's really important that we have proper diagnostics in order to be able to accurately tell what is the actual root cause of the problem. Is it potentially a crystal that's fallen into one of the canals that needs to be moved? Or is it more likely some kind of miscalculation in that visual vestibular perception that's causing some of your symptomatology? So what we can do in real time is we can actually measure what's happening with your eye movements and eye tracking capabilities, and we can actually see what's going on with your entire visual vestibular system, and then be able to quantify that with data. So we can see, do you have excessive blinking? Is there a drift potentially in one direction or the other that could give you symptoms of this constant perception of movement? Do we need to do a posturography exam and look at how well can you balance on your feet? Or do we need to do potentially what's called a velocity storage test? We can see, do you have this underlying perception of movement that you maybe didn't even know was there until it's actually tested. So now we'll take you into a live case of somebody we've actually helped and show you what this looks like on a real person. So this is a 22-year-old girl who came in with complaints of dizziness and of chronic migraines. She's on multiple different medications. She's really struggling at her job because she can't make it through a workday without these intense headaches and dizziness. So as you can see initially, all this chaos happening down here at the bottom. So we see all of these different types of square wave movements like these, which is the eyes moving all around when they shouldn't. And then we can also see all these different blinks. So you shouldn't blink more than 2 or 3 times in a 20-second period. In this instance, she had multiple different blinks, which is an indication that the brain is just fatigued and it's tired. So now we're going to jump forward in time to about 12 weeks later, and now we can see a big change in everything that it looks like here. So now we can see blinks have dramatically reduced. All of those different eye movements are now mostly gone. And why that's important is because now she has a much more calm perception of where her body and where her whole self is at in space. She no longer has these perceptions of dizziness because her brain now is properly calibrated to know where she's actually at. Versus before, she has this constant perception of dizziness, which increases all this muscle tension, which is driving all these different chronic migraine patterns that she's getting. So by correcting her visual system, her inner ears, her vestibular system, and her whole somatosensory awareness, all calibrating those simultaneously, that's where she's able to start to have these dramatic breakthroughs. And now she can start to live life again without the migraines and without the dizziness. Let's be honest, living with dizziness and vertigo, it sucks. Your world, it shrinks. You miss out on the time with friends or family. You're no longer able to enjoy the things that you want to do. And maybe you feel like a burden to other people, but you don't have to. There is hope. I want to invite you to schedule a complimentary consultation where I'm going to dive deep into what's going on with you. I want to find out what you're actually struggling with. And if it makes sense, then we can move on and do an actual assessment and find out what is going on in your brain. We'll get you some answers and we'll get you hope for you to live the life that you want to live.